welcome. If you're feeling suicidal, you've come to the right place. Because I want to fucking kill myself as well. Fuck you, I hate all of you.
This video was brought to you by Play Asia, including the collector's edition of Persona 5, which is now on their website. I actually had an actual creative advertisement planned, but it's taking me an extended period of time to fucking finish it. And you know what? I just can't be fucking bothered. I need to get this shit up, and really, when it comes down to it, I don't really care about these fucking adverts. People love them, but they are fucking excruciating. Visit the fucking link and make me some fucking money. And then, maybe then I'll put the time in to make these advertisements worth a shit like they used to be. But until then, link in the description.
So, due to recent events, the introduction of this series is going to be rather murky. On the one hand, I want to dedicate this series in celebration of seeing Gawker media justly going down like the fucking Hindenburg. But at the same time, we've received another example of why online media is awful, irredeemably awful, and why the people that work at these outlets are motherfuckers who deserve to be out of a job. For those of you that are unaware, a terror attack took place earlier today, in terms of the recording of this, in Orlando, Florida. And American gays were the target of what I've read is now considered the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. So being that this was the most horrific shooting in U.S. history by an Islamist in the name of a caliphate, I can only begin to tell you how much I despise Polygon writer Justin McElroy, who, following this fucking terror attack, blamed video games for the deaths of the victims. Not Islamism, not mainstream homophobia in Islam, hell, not even the shooter, just video games. I don't care that he, proceeded to walk back what he said and equivocate. This tweet is what he believes. Many other game journalists believe exactly this, and they're using this tragedy at the same time to push for banning violent video games. They'll claim otherwise, but that is what they want. They want more walking simulators about fictional gays that deserve rights instead of first-person shooters, which they blame for the deaths of real-life gays, when in fact Islamism is clearly and obviously the motivation here and the clearest threat in the 21st century of America for gays in America. It's kind of amazing when you consider this, but I already have an entire playlist featured on my channel that's exclusively dedicated to covering these kind of fucking people. And it's not enough. If you've paid any attention whatsoever in the last decade, you'll have come across the idea of narratives or trends in the press. One thing is dismissed or covered in a completely pejorative sense, while another is given a pass to any and all scrutiny. As it relates to what's happened in Orlando, Florida, this should sound very relevant to you. But it's not in any way exclusive to just the mainstream press. This is also very much involved in the gaming press as well. An example of this in the gaming press is when pundits defend or at least muddy the waters related to censorship happening in the medium. I've covered this numerous times, a more glaring case being a conversation that happened between two pundits and an executive at IGN, the largest gaming news outlet on the web. Because of these people, I have seen firsthand gamers that cite reasoning that originated from them, the assholes in the press. I don't normally do this, but I'll cite it again. The video I did on these people, these idiots, including a show host, a well-marketed pundit, and their boss, a co-founder of the company, all defending censorship, is easily one of the most important videos on my channel. The most underrated video on my channel is, I believe, the one I did talking about someone's perspective outgrowing them as a person. Some of you may say that these assholes are creating a zeitgeist within, our community or, in the industry. You could also say then look no further than the company censoring their games or adding token characters. You could look at Japanese developers deciding that publishing here isn't worth the effort because they seem to have this idea that if they do publish something here, their product will get attacked for not catering to the Bay Area moral majority. But I think what's really occurring here is as simple as gatekeeping. The press decides what's news and what's true, so in turn, the audience goes along with it. Once enough journos say it, whatever it is, that's what becomes conventional wisdom. I want to continue elaborating on this point, but for the sake of making this a series, I'll stop there. For today, we're covering this article written in the Boston Globe, which caught my attention. I suspect, however, with this article that this is a little more than clickbait and virtue signaling. Nonetheless, I figured why not start out this series with low expectations by picking on low-hanging fruit. This article was written by Ty Burr, a film critic. Now, let's take a minute and let Mr. Burr introduce himself.
There were a lot of theaters showing old movies, midnight movies, specialty movies. It was the Revival House era. You know, I'd go down to the old Park Square Cinema next to the Greyhound bus terminal, and I'd see a double bill of Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant movies, or I'd see the new Fellini movie. You know, in a weird way, that's where I sort of got my education in movies, and I was lucky to have some professors who really taught me how to think about movies kind of outside the box and think about them not just as consumer items or 2-hour dramas, but really think about them in terms of popular culture and what they say and where they fit in and how they are all coming from different directions. For me, the most rewarding part of the job is when I can turn a reader onto a movie they might never have heard about or never ever have considered, and make them say, I want to see that. And if they can go see it, well, you know, I believe that movies can change people's lives, can change people's attitudes. And so sometimes I'll get emails from readers saying, you know, I would never have heard of this movie if I hadn't read your review, but I went, I saw it, I loved it, it really made me think, or really entertained me. And for me, that's what gets me up in the morning.
So I could point to what I already know will be the immediate problem here, but for the sake of the rest of the commentary, I'll just move forward. I will say, though, that this is not the only time that Mr. Burr has written virtue signaling clickbait bullshit, but let's keep an open mind for now. Is Brock Turner a product of bro culture? So if you're a bro like me, and let's face it, if you watch my channel, you're likely to play video games or watch anime, or are just generally a macho guy doing excessively masculine things like playing eroga games, visual novels, or The Sims 4, right? Well, for the sake of the non-bros listening to this mansplaining brumentary, let's check online for an explanation, because if we just drop the shtick here for a second, I don't have the faintest fucking clue what these retards mean by bro culture. Bro is a male youth subculture of conventional guys who spend time partying in ways similar to each other. Although the popular image of bro lifestyle is associated with sports appeal and fraternities, it lacks a consistent definition. Fucking surprise. Some aspects vary regionally, such as in California, where it overlaps with surf culture. Oxford dictionaries have noted that bros frequently self-identify with neologisms containing the word bro as a prefix or suffix, which isn't in any way just a fucking condemning part of this fucking bullshit entry. Why not just say sources say? It's the same fucking thing. It's just bullshit. But continuing on, Oxford Dictionaries identifies bros metonymously? I'm not sure what that word means. As those who themselves use the word to refer to others, such as in the example of "Don't tase me, bro," in which the taser is not the bro, but the tased is. Isn't that begging the question? Isn't that assuming the conclusion? We're going to see more of that, by the way. The subculture is not defined consistently or concretely. Again, surprise, but refers to a type of fratty masculinity, predominantly, if not exclusively, white, associated with frayed brim baseball hats, Oxford shirts. So many of us went to fucking Oxford. Sports team t-shirts, cargo shorts, and boat shoes or sandals. I'm glad the assholes who wrote this can just be so casually racist, as if skin pigmentation is what defines who can be part of this entirely pejorative bullshit subculture. NPR also noted that bros can include people of color, that phrase, and women, though it's not the popular conception of bro subculture. Glad to see that you're at least semi-aware of being racist and sexist in your slander. All right. The rest of this is just fucking slander. Like this is an entirely pejorative fucking subculture. This is only defined based on it being a pejorative to use against, I guess, white men. Although apparently it's not limited to white men, according to fucking NPR. And let's read this fucking butte. Former Microsoft game designer Daniel Cook wrote that the company was responsible for developing the bro subculture within video gaming, explaining that the Xbox put machismo, ultra-violent and chimp boys with backwards caps in the spotlight. Gamers were handed a pre-packaged group identity via the propaganda machine of a megacorporation. Cook writes that Microsoft has done this, apparently, like, he's saying maliciously, that they've done this in order to distance the Xbox from its console competitors, which were portrayed as kids' platforms. Well, he may have been right, because I have violent thoughts currently coursing through my mind as it relates to this beta faggot slandering gamers when he worked for fucking Microsoft. Jesus Christ, man. I mean, are there people that work for Harley Davidson that think bikers are the worst scum of the earth? Or is this misanthropic cunt view exclusively limited to gaming? What a waste of a fucking entry. This is nothing but vague bullshit for the purposes of saying white men all think the same and are entirely awful. How about a Wikipedia entry called nigger culture, where you have members of the alt-right just write whatever racist shit comes to mind and have journalists repeat it as if it's just a fact of life. It amazes me how if you want to be mean to a group of people, the press are the arbiters that get to decide slander from conventional wisdom. All blacks are evil. All women are whores. Oh man, that's horrid. Slanderous demonization. Well, white men are just fucking bros and video games are responsible for terror attacks. These people don't have any agency or individuality. You're listening to NPR. But I'm going off on a tangent when I don't need to be. We haven't even gotten past the title to this fucking article. Think of the digital commons, the social media through which we advertise our beliefs under the guise of reasoned conversation, as a megaphone inside a bubble. Most people use the megaphone to opine and rant, very meta here, and pass stories around. But the noise rarely leaves the bubble of people they follow, the people like them. It's why the most temperate voices on the political spectrum are so sure they're right, because they never hear anything outside their bubble. Their bubble becomes the world. The bubble is never the world, only what you wish the world were. Every so often, though, the bubble pops and the message is suddenly heard by everyone, for better or for worse. I suspect that this is early projection. I listen to many voices that I disagree with. I listen to conservatives. I follow conservatives on Twitter. I even have conservative subscribers that I interact with. Now, does this mean that I can withstand everything that is said by the right? No. I engage from time to time pointing out shit that bothers me. But let's just keep in mind that I listen to figures that are more conservative than I am. I listen to figures that are a different shade of liberal than I am. But I voted for Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary here in New York. I haven't always been on the left, but I've always been open-minded. So spare me from your attempts to lump me in with those that are supposedly living in a bubble. I'm skipping the long-winded explanation of what happened here with this being a rape, with one party being unconscious. If anything, I'd like an explanation as to why the girl in this story was unaccompanied and made the choice of getting so drunk that she passed out. But whatever. The guy raped the girl. He's been found guilty. That's a rape. But let's get to the narrative where all of us are somehow responsible for her poor choices and his illegal act. At the very least, though, the online response to the victim's statement and widespread revulsion at Turner's sentence represent a mass pushback against the sometimes toxic macho sentiments of too much internet and social culture. The bully boys who plague the digital universe wishing violence and death on women and men who dare call them on their misogyny can control the dialogue through the volume and viciousness of their power fantasies. It's total fucking gibberish. Let's listen to this again. The bully boys who plague the digital universe wishing violence and death on women and men who dare to call them on their misogyny can control the dialogue through the volume and viciousness of their power fantasies. For anyone that isn't a feminist, this is completely incoherent babble, but he used the right buzzwords to make this word salad into an actual statement. Power fantasy, misogyny, violence, boys. This is just chum for feminists. They can exhaust reasonable people, but when you read the horrified user comments on news articles about the Stanford rape trial, you hear the responsible majority say, enough. What does Brock Turner have to do with these bully bros? We're multiple meaty paragraphs into this article, and you still haven't addressed the premise to justify your clickbait headline. They're all part of a spectrum of men who only understand women through their depictions in video games, online porn, and Maxim culture, and who can't understand it when actual living, breathing women and men object to the objectification. They're not all men, by a long shot, I'd like to hope, but there are too many of them. They're not the mainstream of video gamers, but they're the ones who scream the loudest. They lurk in the corners of online forums like Reddit. The retard feminists that believe Marxist horseshit are also on Reddit, old man. Conversely, in the world of college athletics, they can be coddled and enabled by parents and coaches and peers to take what they want because they've been told since childhood that it's theirs. However briefly, their bubble was burst this week. It'll be back. Get your sons to read that victim statement if you want them to think and feel and respect their way beyond it, or to be full of guilt for something that they were not in any way associated with. So why is this worth covering? Well, that's to do with this statement here. They're all part of a spectrum of men who only understand women through their depictions in video games, online porn, and Maxim culture, and who can't understand it when actual living, breathing women and men object to the objectification. This is called begging the question, where you start with a conclusion and have this kind of statement, which forces me, as a sane, skeptical person, to ask, well, if we know the problem is pornography, video games, and masculine culture, what is your solution to this?
Thousands of people gathered together at a public place in which books that had been confiscated either by the students themselves or by Nazi party officials, often with the help of police, were brought and dumped in a pile. Student leaders exhorted their followers and the listening crowds to swear an oath by the fire to destroy and combat subversive and un-German literature.
Now, I'm certain that Ty is a coward and would say that I'm either strawmanning him or I've invoked Godwin's law, so he's just automatically right in his incoherent bullshit. But no, I already know his game. Comic books are the problem, and the obvious solution is to censor them. Swear words are the problem, and the obvious solution is to censor them. Nudity is the problem, and the obvious solution is to censor them. Well, how about films? How about films, you fucking moron? The thing that you are a critic of, that you say yourself, is something substantial, something significant that people should indulge in. What about films that objectify women, you fucking moron? You can invoke Miller versus California, although none of these people seem to be aware of anything more than their fucking morality. But legal censorship is still censorship. It's still entirely unjustified and based on nothing but bullshit whinging from uptight cunts. If not censorship, then what, Ty? Do you have some new Orwellian phrase for it? That's great, but it still doesn't justify what you desire. which is to force everyone to live by your unjustified whim. How you feel about something. Fuck your feelings. Fuck your standards, and fuck your morality. What we need in America, and especially in the West, generally speaking, is more art. Whether it's films or comics or video games or what have you. We need more people creating art, buying art, and distributing art. When you strip away liberties, inhibit free thought, and vandalize works of art, all you do is pave the way for more violence in an already violent world.